All right. Welcome back to Big B Sports Talk. We again are talking Indiana high school basketball and high school basketball in general. I got my resident basketball analyst, former, Jeffersonville High School standout and University of Louisville player Bryant Northern. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on, Big B.
No problem. Thank you for coming back. Let's just dive into this thing, man, as far as high school basketball. Look, I live here in Texas. I have these conversations all the time with people, and I try to explain to them what Indiana basketball is like. It's literally just like Texas high school football. It's that big of a deal. They try to tell me that Texas basketball is better, and I'm like, look, let's not get into those silly conversations because as a whole, Indiana high school basketball is better than any other place in the country. It's not up for debate for me. I don't care if somebody tried to come to me with some kind of fact. It wouldn't be a fact. It would just be an opinion. Indiana high school basketball is where it's at. It is literally the best high school basketball that you're going to find in the country.
I agree with you 100%. And before there was the Nike circuit and the Adidas circuit and the Under Armour circuit, and AAU was just one big pool. When I played with Zach Randolph my senior year, we were the Speech Gym Rats. Now they're Indy Gym Rats. When we went to the national tournament, if you won the state of Indiana, you were either number one or number two in the national rankings.
Right.
So the committee honored our state by saying, look, this is the best of the best, the creme de la creme, and whoever wins that state, if you had the number one ranking in Indiana, you went into that AAU nationals, okay, for all the marbles, with a preseason or a pre-tournament one or two ranking.
Right.
So I think even then people recognized and saw that this state produces elite talent. And you can
Absolutely.
go back to the Larry Bird days, the Oscar Robertson days, but if you look at all the elite players we've put out over the last 10, 20 years, we can go toe-to-toe with any other state. I'm talking from Romeo Langford. We just had Blake Wesley recently, Trey Lyles, Eric Gordon. We've had Mike Conley, Greg Oden, Josh McRoberts, Zach Randolph, Jared Jeffries. We've had numerous NBA players come out of this state. And even in colleges in Indiana, if they were just to recruit in-state and take our best players, they could stay competitive. They could be tournament bound if they kept all of our talent in-state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If they were just recruiting Indiana kids and nobody else and all those kids stayed in state, they would be a powerhouse,
Absolutely.
So, and I don't even think that it's close. The one thing that I like to talk about is the per capita. The Texas, the Californias, the New Yorks. There are so many more people that live in those three states than what live in Indiana. So per capita, the player that we put out versus them, it's incredible. It's incredible. Let's dive into a topic that is, to me, like I said, I love Indiana high school basketball. I am just not a fan. Now, you can call me a homer. You can call me a old fogly, whatever you want to call me. I'm just not the guy that likes class basketball. Look, I get it. I played on a team and won a state title, and we played against a team that was tiny. But I thought that was first of all, the basketball game itself was really good, but I just think that there's something missing when it comes to that. I know a lot of people and it's not fair. I get that part. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people want everybody to have an opportunity, and I get that. I just think the Indiana State tournament was something special, and now it's gone.
Well, I think if you look at a boxing match or if you look at a UFC match, and they go by weight class. And I think with class basketball, we've basically said, look, you're going to fight another fighter in your weight class. Is it fair for a Carmel with 5,000 students to go against a high school with 350, 400 students? I am an advocate for class basketball. This is where we disagree. I love it. My son won 2 state titles at Silver Creek. And had it been just one open tournament with no class, they would have never won it. There were better teams in 4A. So I love the fact that the smaller schools or the little guys get a chance to win, and they're fighting in their weight class. And if you can say, well, the numbers don't matter, why is Carmel at the top of everything in every sport? Golf, volleyball, tennis, basketball, football. They're top 5 in everything. And the numbers help. It's hard to compete when you have a pool of 4 or 5 thousand athletes against a school that has under 1,000. Now, could we say, hey, let's go to a 2 class system? Could we go to 3? Yeah, we could do that. It's debatable, but I actually think that those smaller schools deserve a chance. I enjoy and like the fact that there's a class system.
Right. No, I understand. The one thing about Carmel, I won't belabor the point. I mean, they also only have one high school, and they probably need
Mm-hmm.
two. So that's another conversation for another day. But there's some semantics to some stuff that go on because Carmel's not that big of a city, but and you have a school that only has one high school with that many kids. You could probably split that high school up if they wanted to. I understand why they don't. It's good for them,
Mm-hmm.
but they could probably split it up and everything would be just fine. But again, that's a conversation for another day. As far as diving in, and I know we talked about it a little bit previously, basketball in Indiana as a whole, the viewership and the excitement around it. There's not as many people going to games. Now, there's probably a lot to do with that. You know, there's more things to do. Social media is around. People are doing different things. Maybe you have one kid doing this and another kid. The atmosphere at a lot of the schools these days, it used to be when there's a high school basketball game going on, that's what everybody did. That's not the same anymore. I think the student involvement is an issue because there's so many different things that are going on and so many different things to do now versus back then. If you didn't go to the high school basketball game, you
What
just
else are
stayed
you
at home
doing?
and watched a TV show because there
It's
was
and it's
literally nothing else to do.
it's never going to be the same again either. I think now people are streaming the game. Myself and some friends, we streamed some games and we watched them. After COVID, we saw that they can made the games accessible. You could watch a high quality game at home. I also think that unless there's a product that says, "Hey, let's go watch these kids play. This is a lot of talent. This team is ranked the number one," you won't see the same kind of attendance. But with that being said, like I said, my son's team was number one in 3A for 2, 3 years in a row with a Mr. Basketball candidate, and we still didn't sell out games. I mean, it was
Right.
still the gym was half packed. So, I was at the Jeff Cathedral game where Cathedral was preseason number one, returning state champs, All American, and probably the Mr. Basketball and Xavier Booker. And there was maybe 2,500 people in that gym, and that gym holds right at 5,000. So it didn't look full at all. I
Right.
think there's other things to do. I think there's, like you said, less student involvement. And I just think at the end of the day, unless you're winning and that tradition's there, people don't come out and see it unless it's a great product. It's hit or miss depending on where you're at or what players you have.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Um, Another point as far as high school basketball, a lot of places around the country in high school have a shot clock. Indiana does not. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is a must. And look, again, we get to there's a lot of people that argue the fact, hey, these coaches are doing the best that they can. They hold the ball to try to win a basketball game. When they're playing somebody that they're outmanned, that they hold the ball, they give their kids the best chance to win. To me, I don't think that's real basketball, though. Not anymore. Look, that was fine in the 50s, in the 60s, whatever. Basketball's different now. The game's evolved, and the coaches got to evolve with it. So I understand that you may say, well, you're outmanned, but you know what? Coach, come up with a philosophy, come up with a plan where you can attack another team. There's not a team out there that you can't go attack them and go win a game and exploit weaknesses. You can do that as a coaching staff. I think you need to do that. I think the shot clock is a must. It has to be part of Indiana high school basketball moving forward sooner than later.
When my son was getting recruited from sophomore to senior year, I talked to numerous college coaches, and a similar topic came up one time. And they said, in the state of Indiana, the lack of the shot clock is hurting kids for the simple fact that they get to college and they're green in terms of timing,
Yes.
getting a shot off, how to play in a limited time, how to play with a shot clock. You get the ball with 7 seconds left. What do you do? And they have to spend 4 or 5 months or longer teaching them how to play with that shot clock versus another state where those kids have been doing it for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of old school guys, man, who they are anti shot clock. They're anti everything progressive, and they've come up with
Yeah.
every excuse. Well, if it's not broke, why fix it? And
Right.
let these coaches coach, and this strategy works. And they're anti high scoring games. They're anti who's going to work the clock and who's going to pay for it. All of those, there's resources for all of that, and for every excuse they have about why there shouldn't be a shot clock, there's 2 or 3 reasons why you can do it and why someone can work the clock.
Right.
All of that can be fixed easily. I would love to see a shot clock in the state of Indiana. I would love for these kids to be prepared to play real basketball. If you're going to play in college, you're going to have a shot clock.
Correct.
If you're going to play anywhere at a collegiate level or even pro, all of that has a shot clock.
Correct.
These kids are mature enough and talented enough to understand that and do that. So I would love to see it. I think it would make the game better. I think it would make the game cleaner, and I think it provides a level of maturity and experience that these players could use at the next level.
Well, and the one thing, the big argument that people always come up with is that the scoring doesn't get better. The scoring doesn't, change a lot and I go, well, guys miss shots. I get it. I go, because they're not coached to do things. Look, I get that part, that the scoring is not going to go from a 55-point game to an 80-point game. That's not going to happen.
I don't need it to go up.
No, you
I
don't.
I don't need a team who's scoring 46 points a game to score 60 a game. I don't think the shot clock is anti coaches who run a structured offense. I don't think it's anti teams who want to spread you out and hold the ball. I just think the shot clock is a progressive way to get kids ready for college. So when I say, hey, I would like a shot clock, it's just to help kids learn how to play. Because at some point, if they're good enough and they go to college, whether it's NAI, D2, D3, D1, there is going to be a clock counting down 7, 6, 5.
Right.
And they're going to have the ball in their hands, and they're going to have to take a shot, make a shot, or create a shot for someone else. And doing that for 3 or 4 years in high school will really, really prepare them for that next level.
Well, another thing that it does is it brings coaching into play a little bit more, because you have to get those guys to understand we got 30 seconds or 35 seconds, whatever you want to make it, to get a ball in the air and get it in the basket. Coaching matters at the high school level, and it would matter even more if you have a shot clock, and I'm not opposed to it. Because, again, I think the coaches in Indiana, I think they are the best high school coaches that are out there, man. They care. It's a good product. I think there's just an avenue for us to take the next step. Look, if we went to class basketball, that was a huge step. Great. Okay, that's what we're doing. Now you got to add this into it too, because adding a shot clock, to me, I think it makes the game more exciting. Not necessarily high scoring exciting, but hey, there's 45 seconds left in the game. You got the ball up 1, but you got 35 seconds to take a shot. To me, that's exciting. What are you going to do? What's the coach going to do?
Because the other team's going to get the ball back, and now you got to strategize.
Yes.
It would be great.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I think that Indiana high school basketball it needs. Because, again, the players and again, I'm not downgrading any other state or anything like that. I just believe the IQ, at the high school level, the basketball IQ for Indiana high school players is through the roof, and the coaching through the roof, and a shot clock is only going to enhance the play on the court.
I go to Louisville games on occasion, and just being in Southern Indiana, I can get to certain high schools in 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I could probably get to all of them in that Louisville area within a 30-minute radius. So I'm at that southern tip of Indiana, and you can see a difference in the quality of basketball, the quality of coaching. I won't say the quality of the fans, just in attendance.
Right.
So we talked about attendance is a little bit down in Indiana. It's really down in Kentucky.
Right.
It's the gym size has never been comparable.
No.
So even then, you just see a different level of basketball. It's not the same.
No, it's
not.
I
feel like Kentucky basketball is AAU versus Indiana basketball is like this sub-version of college basketball. Spacing, execution, tempo, it's a different style.
Gotcha. So lastly here, and we're talking high school basketball, but I'm going to dip into talking Indiana basketball, University of Indiana, for a quick second. We had a discussion previously where I thought Mike Woodson was a great fit. I thought he was getting the guys in. I thought he was going to be able to relate to players because He had coached in the NBA, and the NBA is not a bunch of 35-year-old guys. The NBA is a young league. And
Mm-hmm.
as an assistant coach, partly for all those years, you know, his job is developing basketball, developing those players. That's what they do. So I thought he was a really, really good fit at Indiana. Um, Tell me what you think. Now they've got a couple of guys hurt, so they haven't been as good lately. But tell me how you think that Mike Woodson's doing, what he needs to do, and how IU will fare the rest of the season. Let's just say everybody's healthy. They get everybody back because, when guys aren't healthy, you can't predict injury. So when everybody's healthy, tell me what you think about IU as a whole.
I think they're 11-6. I saw them play preseason because my son's team played them in a preseason game. I
Mm-hmm.
told all of my friends, this is a top 10 team. They have every piece that you want. They have size, they have athleticism, they have leadership, they have point guards, they got shooters, they got role players. They're 8 or 9 deep. They got two guys who I think are pros, and Jalen Hood-Schifino and Chase Jackson Davis. Xavier Johnson gets hurt. Race Thompson gets hurt. They lose 2 or 3 games in a row. And I see the fan base instantly turn on the team. All
Yeah.
you got to do is scroll down your news feed, and it's Mike Woodson can't do this, Indiana ain't this. And I thought, man, this fan base is crazy because if Race isn't missing and Xavier Johnson isn't missing, this is still a top 15 team. They gave Arizona everything they wanted. They beat a good Xavier team on the road. They had Iowa down. Not that Iowa's a top 10 team or anything, but it's tough to play at Iowa. They
Right.
had Iowa down double figures on their home court. Xavier goes out, and next thing you know, they lose the game. I believe healthy, and they're I think 11-6 right now. So as they get healthy and they win some games and kind of get that record turned around, I think they're going to be a 4 or 5 seed, maybe 6 at worst. At worst, everybody healthy. This team is going to be at worst the 6th seed. They
Gotcha.
could rally back and be top 2 or 3 in this Big Ten and finish as a 4 seed. So I think 4, 5, or 6 is realistic. If guys don't get healthy, they could be looking at a bubble or 8, 9. I think this team is going to struggle to win without those guys. Um, they're not. They're lacking depth. They become 6, 7 deep if those two guys can't come back and be what they were. But
Right.
what I think Indiana fans, because Indiana is a team I root for. They're not my primary team. I'm a Cards guy, but I do like to see local teams do well. I was
Sure.
born in the state of Indiana, so why would I not? I mean, Indiana's one of my teams. I
Right.
would like for Indiana fans to be a little more patient. I just 2 and 13, 15 shown us a lot of good things. So this team is still a quality team. When those guys get healthy, I think you're going to see a dangerous Indiana. I think they're just as good as an Ohio State healthy. I think they're just as good as a Michigan State. I think they're just as now. Look, I can't wait to see that Purdue matchup, especially if they're healthy. I think this is the game. Louisville versus Kentucky. This is, I think, Indiana's new rivalry game. Is are you better than an in-state team? Matt Painter is kind of owned Indiana the last couple of years, and that's the matchup I'm really looking forward to, especially if all those pieces are healthy. But this
Yeah.
team, this is a tournament team healthy. They're good.
Well, I mean, you take two starters off of any basketball team in
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, any basketball team, pro at the elementary, pro, college, high school, any level, you're not going to be as good. So I think people got to understand that a little bit. You know, obviously there's some room for improvement, but I just think that Woodson is doing a heck of a job. It wasn't going to be an overnight turnaround that they were going to be immediately they're going to be good. That wasn't going to happen. I think a lot of times guys think, hey, this is a good hire. Okay, then you got to be good right away. It takes a little time sometimes because if we're being honest, IU hasn't been relevant or the as good in 20 years. I mean, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to say on the national level, IU hasn't really been relevant like that in 25 to 30 years. That's a long time, man. And to just say that you're going to turn it around because you made the right hire in one season, that's not realistic. That's just not realistic. I do think they're on the right track, though. I believe that they are on the right track. I think they got stuff going in the right direction.
when I say that to Indiana fans that they haven't been good in this long, their comments are, we had Oladipo, we had Cody Zeller. That year when
They
they lost to
underachieved.
Syracuse, they underachieved. They lost to Syracuse in the Sweet 16, and they
Absolutely.
were the number one overall seed. I remember a lot of people picked them either in a Final Four to win it all, and that was the best team, and that was for 1 year.
Yep.
But when you look at the totality, when you look at the last 20, 30 years as a whole, there hasn't been a span where they're ranked top 10 or top 20 4 or 5 years in a row. They
Nope.
haven't had that Kansas, that Duke, that kind of North Carolina effect where every year, year in and out, they're feared, they're ranked, and they're a team that makes a run. So I think you're onto something there. It's really been a long time since Indiana's been a team where you just know, okay, they're top 10.
Yeah.
That team is going to be in the Elite Eight or better, or they're making a run at the national championship every single year. Could it get there again? I think so. With NIL money, I heard what Trace was making. Anthony Leal made so much money, he paid the debt for his sister's
Right.
college tuition,
Which is
and
great.
he doesn't even get off the bench. So a guy like Anthony Leal, now he's a homegrown Bloomington guy, attended Bloomington South. Uh, we played against him and never beat him in 4 years of high school basketball. My son and won 2 state titles. We could never beat Anthony Leal, but I heard he gave up his scholarship and he's a walk on. And with NIL money, a guy who doesn't even get in has made enough money to pay his sister's debt.
That's awesome.
I heard Trace Jackson Davis is making around $2 million. I heard Jalen Hood Shafino and Race Thompson were well above 6 figures, approaching the 200,000 plus range. So with all of those numbers in the facility and the fan base, Indiana should get back there.
Yeah.
IU basketball should not take long to get back to a point where they're a top 5, top 10 team.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what the new way of recruiting is, kids are going to say, what's it going to be like playing style? How much money can I make?
Yep.
And we're going to win. And how much money can I make is probably going to be number one. How much can I play and
Absolutely.
how much can I make?
Absolutely.
Or the new number one. Not tradition, not
Right.
banners on the
No.
wall.
No.
It's, can I get paid? Can I buy a new car? Can I send money home to mom and dad? Can I
That's
have a
right.
bunch of money in the bank? And IU can do that.
Right.
So I believe they will be a powerhouse again. I don't know how long that'll take. It will happen under Mike Woodson's watch, and it will happen in the next 4 or 5 years. They will become a top 5, top 10 program.
Gotcha. Real quick, last question. You think NIL should dip down into the high school ranks? To me, I think that's
They
going
do
a
in
little
some
too far.
states. I was told Gabe Cupp had already made $1 million. That
Woo!
some states allow you to keep your amateur status and receive that. I heard Mikey Williams, who has over 5 million followers on the total platforms. He has over 5 million between Instagram, Twitter, and whatnot. He has over 5 million followers that he's already made $1 million. So in some states, they're already dipping into that pool. And I'll tell you what, if I'm making $1 million as a 17, 18-year-old, my mom says, hey, you better be home
I'm
at
not coming
11
home.
o'clock. I'm not coming home.
That's
I'm
a
like, Mom, I'm
problem.
paying the bills.
Yeah.
I'll go buy my own house. You can live by my
Yeah.
rules or you can get out. Okay, Mom, I'll get out. And I'm
Exactly.
going to buy a bigger house than we live in, and I'll
See,
have my own
to
rules.
me, that's going too far, man. It's just going too far because it's just what you said. If my mom says be home at midnight, hey, I made $1 million. You know what? I'll be home when I get home. Well, the first time that I do,
Right.
you know my mom. I mean, that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
So I probably
You would
wouldn't
have
have
never
said
made it to
that.
college. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have never
But
made
at
it to
the
college.
same time, I can see, I just think that's going too far, man. At some point, look, in college, that's fine. Because in college, young adult, you're an adult. Look, you go to the army, then you can make some money. You know, you can go to the military, then you shouldn't be denied being able to make some money, whatever the case may
I
be.
disagree. Look, I went to Romeo. I had to scout tickets for Romeo Langford's high school games. His senior year, I paid $60 for a high school ticket to watch him play against Jeff. And I think I paid 40 or $50 to watch him play against like Charlestown or somebody. I went to 4 games that were sold out. People were literally scalping his tickets for up to $100. I've never seen nothing like that. Okay. And he was packing that gym. I bet you New Albany, for 2 years in a row, every game he played sold out. Junior and senior year, home and away. Even in sectionals, Seymour's gym that holds around 8,000 sold out. He made New Albany so much money over those 2 years. I'm talking, I bet you they made 2, 3, 400 grand. There would be 100 kids in that arena with his jersey on. New Albany made a lot of money under his watch, from ticket sales to concessions to jersey sales.
But there's got
I
to be
think
a
it,
limit, though, man. There's
I
got to
would
be
think
a
it would have been
cutoff.
cool for them to have cut him a check or said, you know what, Romeo, here's $1,000 or here's this. Because when you're a high school kid, you want to buy shoes, you want to buy a video game, you want to go out to eat. And I think that
But
at
you
the
also
end of
live
the
home with
day,
your parents.
I mean, if he was working at Chick-fil-A or if he was working at the local grocery store, somebody would be paying him. I don't think it's wrong that at 16, 17, 18, because this is an elitist thing. Every kid wouldn't make money. This wouldn't be thousands of
I,
kids. It would be the best
yeah,
of the best. They could get a piece, and it might only be 10 or 20 grand. If you can put a little money in your pocket, maybe save it, invest it, I don't see anything wrong with letting those young people get a piece of the pie. It's all, for me. It's all capitalism. If you're a
for
capitalist and
sure.
you're for people making money, then for me, how do you say no to that?
I mean, I get that. I agree with capitalism 100%. I don't want to get too political.
Right.
I agree with it 100%. I just believe that at some point there's got to be limits to stuff. And you're right. If somebody was working at Foot Locker or, wherever, they would be making a paycheck. At the same time, that's not what they're doing. They're playing basketball. And while you can get paid at certain levels, when you're living in your mom's house going to high school, I don't think that you should be able to make money off of playing basketball in high school. It's different if you're a professional and you can go places and be professional. They even got academies now that if you're good enough, you can go and they give you money. You can get paid and you learn how to be a professional. All that is fine with me. But when you're at, Bloomington South, I just don't think that you getting paid to go to high school is something that should be done. But that's, again, we can get into that another day and talk about NIL, which I think we
And no,
probably will.
and that's fair. And just so you know, so I consider you progressive. I want the shot clock. I like the NIL. I like the
Yeah.
money, but only till you get to college. So you're like, I see you being progressive in this area, and then in this other area, you're like, hey,
Hey,
no,
man,
no, 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 no.
it's all gotta make sense. It's gotta make
Right,
sense. Everything's gotta make sense. We can't just all be one way. I think the people in
right.
America get too much. Oh, well, it's gonna be this way. We're all one way, and that's it. Can't be that way. You gotta look. Have things just make sense, and again, make sense to you. Make sense to me. It doesn't have to be the same. And I think that's the beauty of living in America. Number one is everything doesn't have to be the same. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I thank you again.
Thank
We're
you.
going
I
to do
appreciate
this
you
each
having
week,
me.
man. I love talking to you about this stuff. We'll come back and we'll do this again soon, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Big B.